Hi, Fred. It's my pleasure to introduce to everyone out there Dr. Fred Stutzman. Fred is the developer of Freedom, a productivity application, one of the earliest tools that we have to help us manage our time in cyberspace. So, Fred, thanks for joining us. Let's start by briefly describe the kind of work you do with Freedom.
All right, cool. Well, Gary, thanks for having me here. And I'm happy to take the time. So the kind of work that I do, like you said, I was the developer of Freedom. I developed the first couple of versions of it, but now I have a team of people who are much better than me at developing Freedom. So my job, the day to day, is managing and running the company. And so that involves, shepherding the development, working on marketing, thinking about how we better support our customers, and then thinking about how we're going to grow our company. And I spend my time on kind of all of those things, and they are they're all unique challenges. And I did a little bit of that, back when I was the developer, but now there's more management. Now there's more kind of overhead, and it's about getting people the tools and resources they need to do the work that moves the company forward.
Great, thanks. How does technology affect the knowledge work that you do in your enterprise?
Well, in our company, when we first started, we were a co-located company. We were based sort of between Chapel Hill and Durham. We moved, a couple of times, and it became pretty clear early on that having a sort of fully co-located company was not going to work for us. I had spent most of my career prior to that doing research and working on remote projects. The work that I did at Sills at iBiblio was remote work. I mean, we were in an office, but we were working with collaborators around the world, and that was just natural for me. And so it was quite natural to then take that and apply it to a software company where, it's the one kind of company at the time that really made sense to have distributed. So we started working distributed in 2016 and really haven't looked back. And so, there's a good chunk of mental effort and time that I have spent and continue to spend on, how do you make a company work in a remote way? But I think we're doing a really good job on that. And we have over, 20, 23, 24 people who are working remote in one capacity or another. And so I think a lot of the tools and technologies that, have evolved over the past couple of years have supported the work that we do. And it's kind of interesting that we build a tool that, in some ways could be said supports remote work. When people are working, and they don't have the office around them, the office actually serves as, or the coffee shop or any sort of environment serves as a forcing function to, help you focus a little bit. But when you don't have that around you, it's easier to stray. And, so we're building a tool that helps people focus and really get their work done. So it's interesting to be both building a tool to support remote work and, learning about how to better support remote work. So we're dog fooding it, I guess you would say.
Great. And you're eating your own dog food. Good.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. So, I don't have COVID. I just coughed. But how has COVID, the pandemic, affected your work practice in the last, almost 2 years now?
I thought I had COVID on Monday, but it was just allergies. It was that weird weather that came through. So thankfully I'm better. Let's see, how has COVID affected? Well, it's interesting. I mean, because we were remote, we were able to, essentially continue in the fashion that we've been working at that point. And because of the growth in remote work, that drove a lot of interest in the tools that we're producing. So it has been an area of growth for us. And I think that as we look into the future, it's only going to continue to grow. The pandemic has I think accelerated some aspects of transitions that would have happened over 10 years. They happened over 1 year, but it's one of these things where the toothpaste is out of the tube and we are not going back to the before. We're going towards a hybrid and a more functional work environment where people who do knowledge work are going to be able to work on their schedules and in the places and time zones that they choose. It's very much a luxurious sort of place to be in, but it is the reality. And so we are going to need to evolve the ways that we work to support these individuals. We're going to have to come up with new processes, new ways of evaluation, and new ways of working and collaborating. And so a lot of that is going to be technology enabled. And so we think about that a lot in our company, and we put a lot of time and effort into how we develop our processes so that we have people working from the East Coast of the United States all the way to Moscow, and it doesn't make sense for them to be all online at the same time, nor would we want to force that on somebody. We want them to work at the times that are right for them. And so you really need to think about the processes that you develop. And so I think a lot of what the pandemic has done for us is got us to think about how do we get people to work together in a geographically distributed format in a way that gets the work done. And as it happens, knowledge workers are really good at this stuff. It's not hard, it's not particularly hard, and it's very successful. So it's been very eye-opening. And for that reason, like, I don't look at this stuff and say, oh, we're going back. I'm like, no, maybe the people who have not been successful at this think we're going back, but the reality is we're not going back to the before. We are just going to, we're going to go into this future of distributed work.
Great, thank you. Finally, what kind of advice would you give to our SIL students to help them prepare for their professional practice?
It's interesting. So many of the SIL students are knowledge workers, and they're going to be going into fields where they're going to be working remote. And, they're going to have the opportunity to work with companies where they would have never had the opportunity because they would have had to move. And I think that's so exciting. So there can be a lot of career fluidity. What may be missing and what may need to be sort of a learned thing is the skills of remote work. And so there is something nice about coming out of school and going into a large environment where you've got management and you've got structure. And I think that helps people who are younger. And that may be lacking to a certain extent in these companies that are making this rapid transition. So I would think, if I'm a student coming out and I know I'm going to go into this workforce that is remote, I'm going to be learning about certainly learning about the best practices for working remote. I'm going to be thinking about, how do I maximize communication? How do I maximize accountability? How do I sort of set myself up to succeed when I go into a position? And then take the sort of unique perspective that they have coming out of SILs, where they've been working with the best minds in the information space. Think about what they would bring to the organization and help shape that trajectory of work, because it is such a unique opportunity for someone who has kind of, a clear mind and fresh eyes to contribute. So I would be both apprehensive, and I would be apprehensive going into an office or remote, because that's just the nature of that transition. But I would be excited about it, and I would really, really do my homework to maximize, what you get out of that, and maximize the contribution.
That's fantastic. Fred, thank you so much for taking the time today. Stay well and keep building that company. I'm just delighted to see the success you're having.
Oh, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.